Ole Miss will be a major player for Micah Hudson when the transfer portal window opens.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. On today's episode, we dive into some transfer portal gossip and rumors as we approach that next window. A five-star plus freshman wide receiver is entering the transfer portal, and Ole Miss looked kind of primed to be a serious contender for his blockbuster recruitment. But make no mistake, everybody will be out after this guy. We'll also discuss Kevin Concepcion and Jonte Cook, two other big-time wide receivers that are on the Rebels' radar as well. Lane Kiffin, the portal king himself, might just be gearing up for another dominant portal season. Stay tuned. There's a lot to unpack, and you do not want to miss it. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Don't forget to find a second listen on the network. Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC or Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy. They offer great perspectives on college football, the SEC, and yes, even Ole Miss. So check them out. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. So all the names that are going into the transfer portal, they're piling up one after another. This list is going to end up being huge. The transfer portal doesn't open up until next Monday officially. So that is the time that Ole Miss can actually reach out and officially contact whichever prospect is out there. But a lot of names are going into the transfer portal right now. And there's starting to be some interest rumors going around about what could happen with these players. And one of the main names that have gone into the transfer portal is Micah Hudson, the wide receiver that is a freshman this year at Texas Tech. He's from Temple, Texas, a high school down there. He was rated one of the recruiting guys with Texas Tech. It's like, this is one of the best high school players I've ever seen. He was a five-star plus athlete. He is essentially an Elijah Moore clone. Elijah's a little bit shorter and maybe a little stockier, but there's a quickness factor and a slot receiver factor in the offense for that wide receiver. In high school, if you look at his tape, he's absolutely doing insane things. He's scoring touchdowns in insane ways, scoring in very weird ways. He's doing things athletically that other people on the field cannot match. He is a guy that has a chance to be unbelievably special once he develops at the next level. Now, why did it not work out at Texas Tech? I don't know. Maybe it's just because it is Texas Tech. Maybe it's as simple as that. And he's looking for something power too. Maybe Texas came calling, because Texas is always going to be a big factor in a recruitment of a Texas kid. If Texas wants you, it's kind of hard to say no. We've all seen that in the Southeastern Conference with LSU. When LSU calls, it's hard for that Louisiana kid to say no. But Micah Hudson has indicated that he is interested in Ole Miss per, I think, Billy Embody of On3, the Ole Miss Spirit, or maybe it was Zach Berry. I forget which one it was. I apologize either way if I got that wrong. There's a mutual interest right there between the two wide receiver and the school. So what it's going to come down to, potentially, is whether or not Ole Miss can get Micah Hudson on campus for a visit. Let Walker Jones work his magic. Let Lane Kiffin, who is an expert in recruiting in the short transfer portal burst windows, make a play to get this five-star plus wide receiver. And when you look at the wide receiver unit that Ole Miss has coming back, okay, you have Caden Lee, who is going to be the outright star of this wide receiver unit as far as returning production. You're likely losing Juice Wells. You're likely losing Trey Harris and Jordan Watkins. This wide receiver unit is going to have to be rebuilt. Ole Miss just held an official visit for Caleb Cunningham. That is terrific. He's probably the best wide receiver to come out of Ole Miss in a very long time. There's rumors floating around that Ole Miss is going to make another run at Deion Smith in the winter. We'll see exactly how that goes. But in the transfer portal, as it sits, a receiver like Micah Hudson will provide them a little bit of a benefit as well. Again, he can play inside, he can play outside. He's a super freakish athlete. You can match him up with Caleb Cunningham, who has a chance to be another Trey Harris type wide receiver. And you have the makings of a pretty good wide receiver unit. You include Norrell White, Aiden Williams, whoever sticks around that can make a name for themselves, that is available as well. But this transfer portal class is going to be interesting. And the headliner of it is either Micah Hudson or Jonte Cook. He's the wide receiver that's transferring out of Texas. Now, the rumor is that Oregon, who is a big transfer portal player as well, is going to make a play for him. I get that. Oregon is doing big things in the transfer portal. There's a lot of schools that are doing some big things, and there's going to be more this year. This year is going to be harder than it was a year ago. So everybody needs to be prepared for that, because there's gradually some proof of concept that this is working. When you look at what Colorado improved to, what Ole Miss did, what Indiana did, what Oregon is doing, there's a very good chance that this is only going to expand. So it's going to get a little bit harder. But Jonte Cook, a big-time wide receiver, that's another slot receiver that can play inside or outside, just like Micah Hudson. And a third receiver that we're talking about is out of North Carolina State. This is the first non-Texas player that I can think of. I think he might be from Texas, but it's North Carolina State. Kevin Concepcion, he's the inside wide receiver that was a freshman All-American in 2023. He's transferring away. I'm sure there's going to be several people going after him as well. It should be really interesting if we're going to be honest about it. Really interesting. I am curious to see if Ole Miss can make headway with Micah Hudson, because we're going to talk in the next segment. The GMs from Texas, another player personnel guy is from Texas, and then like another player personnel man on top of that is from Texas. There's a very Texas-centric theme in the Ole Miss personnel office. The general manager, Billy Glasscock, came from the University of Texas, so there's going to be some Texas ties in what's going on. So the question's going to be, and we're going to ask this in the next segment, is like, should we just look for players with Texas ties in the transfer portal, no matter where they go to school? That is going to be something that we look at. Last year, it was really simple. You could tell who Ole Miss was really recruiting in the transfer portal by Jaxson Dart's Instagram follows. He will let you know exactly who he was trying to contact and what was going on. And that is the reason we were so far ahead of everybody else, seemingly a lot of the time. This year is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about Austin Simmons and the role that he is going to play. I think he needs to start acting like the starting quarterback. I think that's a big, big part of this. And I think Austin is doing that. And him recruiting in this transfer portal window is going to be a really big piece of what's going on and how he can handle what is happening as well. Like I said, it was Micah Hudson, it was Jonte Cook, and Kevin Concepcion, because it looks like the wide receiver unit right now in college football, that's the dominant transfer portal piece. And how Ole Miss handles it, the need and the piece, it kind of matches up a little bit. It'll help out Austin Simmons at quarterback. At running back, you have potentially Logan Diggs and Shakai Mills-Knight, and potentially another running back as well. Ole Miss didn't do a very good job at personnel this season. They didn't. They have to get that fixed. They will get that fixed. There's no evidence whatsoever to the contrary that when Ole Miss sees a problem, they don't fix it. So we'll see exactly how it goes. But Micah Hudson, Ole Miss is going to be a major player in his recruitment, along with Jonte Cook and Kevin Concepcion. And we'll see exactly how that goes as well. With a shift to Texas-centric personnel departments, should Ole Miss tap into Texas connections nationwide? And could Austin Simmons become the ace recruiter Jaxson Dart was a year ago? We break down the Rebels' key needs and how they can level up in 2024 and 2025. Do not miss it. You know, there's nothing like the energy of being at a live game. The roar of the crowd, the sound of sneakers squeaking on the court, and the spotting of a few celebrities in the stands. I remember going to an NBA game a few years back, and the electricity in the arena was just unforgettable, even though it was a Mavericks game. You can't replicate that watching from your couch. This year, I'm looking forward to catching more games live, and Game Time makes it easier than ever with their new Game Time Picks feature. Whether it's basketball, concerts, or theater, Game Time helps you find the best deals on great seats without the hassle of endless scrolling. I just hopped on the app to check out tickets for an upcoming game, and the Game Time Picks made it a breeze to find a super deal on amazing seats. Plus, the app showed me a panoramic seat view so I could pick out the perfect spot. No guesswork, no surprises. And it's not just sports. Game Time also has incredible deals for concerts and comedy shows. I'm planning to grab tickets to a concert next month. And with all-in prices, I see exactly what I pay up front. No hidden fees at checkout. And what I love most about Game Time is their lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. And with event cancellation protection, your tickets are covered if your plans change. And the most flexible ticketing app I have ever used. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, so Ole Miss has changed their personnel department this year. Whenever Austin Thomas went down to LSU, Ole Miss hired Billy Glasscock from Texas. They hired personnel department members that have experience at Rice. They hired a high school coaching legend, ace recruiter type that was coaching at that time in Lubbock, Texas, which that's obviously where Micah Hudson is at the moment. But I digress on that. Ole Miss has been very Texas-centric in building their personnel group. And this isn't saying they're going to recruit just Texas, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they're going to have ties inside that state, probably more so than other places around the country. When you add in a Randall Joyner, who is an ace Dallas Metroplex recruiter, you can see that what Ole Miss has built inside the state of Texas and what they have inside the state of Florida with Kevin Smith and Charlie Weiss Jr. and those players, and lets you know that Texas and Florida are major parts of their plans moving forward. So this is what to watch for in this transfer portal. You know, Ole Miss is making inroads, like we talked about in the first segment, with several big-time wide receivers that could visit when the portal opens. Keep an eye on them. Micah Hudson, Jonte Cook, Kevin Concepcion. Pay attention to what's going on with them and see if you can get them in front of Walker Jones. And if that happens, you're going to be in good shape. Second of all, Ole Miss has a very Texas-centric personnel office currently. So the question is going to be, should we pay attention to people that have ties to the state of Texas moving forward in the transfer portal window? And is that going to help? If this wide network that they have built, is that something that Ole Miss can build off of? We have to see this year, because it is going to be a little different than a year ago because the personnel department has changed a little bit. And third of all, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment, there's several fun rumors that are already floating on Twitter about potential transfer portal targets if they get into the portal. We'll talk about that as well. Listen, Ole Miss changing their personnel. Everybody sees Kelvin Bolden. He is a constant. He hasn't changed a bit. But what has changed is the structure around Kelvin Bolden, if that makes sense. When Billy Glasscock came in and brought in his people, I think his name is R.L. Mann, is another personnel person. He was the head coach of Coronado High School in Lubbock, Texas, before he was hired at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has built a wide net around the state of Texas, so it only makes sense that Ole Miss would keep tabs on where all of these players are going. So if they go into the portal, you can use those influence. You can use that influence to potentially get them to transfer back to your place. And I think that might be something that Ole Miss is planning with two of the targets, okay? Micah Hudson and Jonte Cook. Let's just talk about them for a second. Both of them are Texas guys. Jonte Cook actually signed with Texas when Billy Glasscock was there. When those people were in the building, he was able to get him in the building. So there's a relationship there with Jonte Cook. The number 2, we always talk about how in recruiting, it's important to be in the top 2 for the transfer portal purposes. In the top 2 with Micah Hudson, the second team was Texas. General manager of that Texas staff was Billy Glasscock. So that shows you the relationship and how this network is designed to work for Ole Miss. Now, Kevin Concepcion, I'm not sure exactly what the end is with him. We'll have to see what happens there. I do know that he is good enough that Ole Miss is at least reaching out to him. But when you look at what Ole Miss has done in the personnel department, it feels a little Texas-centric. So we need to pay attention to what's going on. Now, secondly on this is, what type of recruiter will Austin Simmons become? This transfer portal class. Last year, if Ole Miss would have made it into the playoffs and did all of that stuff, Jaxson Dart had a chance to have all the credit because of what he did in December. He worked to build this team and recruit these players, and obviously working with the personnel department to try and create a super team of sorts in Oxford, Mississippi. What will Austin Simmons do? What is his personality? What type of a leader is he? We don't know the answer to those questions yet. We've all seen the fieriness of Jaxson Dart. Everybody knew exactly what Jaxson Dart could do leadership-wise for the Ole Miss football team. What does Austin Simmons look like? Now, he is going from being the number 2 to being the number 1. And the number 2 is always going to defer to the number 1. When will Austin take control of what's going on and start building his team? That's the important thing, building his team. And we're going to talk about all kinds of players with Brian Smith over the next couple of days in high school recruiting, because there's several flips and all this. Ole Miss recruiting-wise in high school could have 10 or 11 4-stars and a few 5-stars as well. And that's really interesting. And it's not a one or the other type proposition to where you're either high school recruiting or transfer portal, because Ole Miss needs 50 players. And knowing that, they're going to recruit really highly in the high school level as much as they can do, but they're also going to do the same thing in the transfer portal. So it's going to be up to Austin Simmons to make the super team the super team. I think Austin Simmons is supposed to graduate from Ole Miss this month, for whatever that means. I think he is supposed to get his diploma this month from Ole Miss. And if he doesn't get it this month, he'll probably get it after the spring, because he is right on pace to graduate from Ole Miss. Austin Simmons, just a heck of, he's a unicorn of a human being. So that's pretty cool to see. Those are the interesting questions about the personnel department and Austin Simmons and all of that, and how this transfer portal cycle is going to go. Now, when we come back, we are going to dive into the buzz around the fan base. There's several fun rumors about potential transfer portal targets for Ole Miss. What could they mean for Lane Kiffin and the Rebels? Do not miss it. You know, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The Georgia Bulldogs currently are, I think, at a 2.5-point underdog to the Texas Longhorns in the SEC championship game. When will FanDuel and these Vegas outlets learn not to make Georgia an underdog in the state of Georgia? I do not know. So that is my hunch. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place those live bets on the NFL all in one place. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, and its official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, really fun stuff, because with the reputation that Lane Kiffin has acquired over the last several years in the transfer portal means fun rumors inevitably pop up. And sometimes they turn out to be true. That's the best part about these. Whenever you hear these fun rumors, you cannot completely discount them. I heard for 2 years that Jaheim Oatis was looking at transferring. That's what I heard. Jaheim Oatis went into the transfer portal earlier this year. This is from Pete Thamel. Alabama junior defensive tackle Jaheim Oatis plans to redshirt and enter the transfer portal, he told in ESPN. Oatis started 13 games his first 2 years and was a top 40 recruit. He said the reason for leaving was playing time, as he played 25 total snaps against Georgia and Wisconsin. It's a situation where the defense changed. He knew that he could do inside of Pete Golding, that old Alabama system. He could play more. So the rumor is him going in the transfer portal. Obviously, Ole Miss fans should probably look in that direction. Now, again, lots of people are going to be in on him, but if he sees what Walter Nolan did this year, I think that Jaheim Oatis is going to play quite a bit. In fact, I think Jaheim Oatis and Xavion Harris might be an interesting Mississippi defensive tackle unit that could be quite effective for the Ole Miss Rebels. But that's the example of a fun rumor that Ole Miss fans talked about for 2 years that kind of eventually became fruition. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that those rumors started almost immediately. Pete Golding left shortly after Jaheim Oatis got to Alabama, which caused those rumors to escalate. Sometimes they're a little bit shorter notice. I mean, you hear rumors all the time, but the fun one that's going around right now is that if Harold Perkins gets into the transfer portal, he would end up at Ole Miss. And it's a Perkins and Perkins type situation. And that's an absolutely fun rumor. I don't know if I believe it. I don't know if I buy it, but I am watching it because we just talked about how these rumors can kind of take a life of their own and become almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I am going to pay attention to see if Harold Perkins gets into the transfer portal, just in case these rumors are true. I'm going to pay attention to most everyone that gets in the transfer portal that is linked in one way or another to Ole Miss. In 2021, it was right after Matt Corral finished up, got hurt in the Sugar Bowl. I had Luke Altmaier in that game. All of a sudden, somebody popped up on a message board. I do not know who it was. It was 4 years ago, so I apologize for it. That, hey, pay attention to Jaxson Dart. Just out of nowhere. And this was back when he was the quarterback at USC. He was still not in the portal at that point in time. It was just another example of a transfer portal rumor. Pay attention to this guy. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got there. But all of a sudden, Jaxson Dart ended up getting into the transfer portal window because Caleb Williams followed Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma to SC. Once he got into the portal, it became an Ole Miss-Oklahoma battle. Ole Miss was in that battle. Ole Miss ended up eventually winning that competition, and the rest was history. Ole Miss ended up being able to win a lot of football games with Jaxson Dart on campus. Another fun rumor as it started, but that shows a quicker burst rumor. That was like 3 weeks before he got into the transfer portal. That rumor started to pop. So keep your ear to the grindstone. I know that inside of my network, whenever I hear stuff, just like I did with Princely and Mommy Ellen last year, I obviously will run with that. Mike Huseman is going to come on the show tonight. He is the transfer portal czar. He knows all. He knows everything. He also does a lot of coaching stuff, search, and he's just a friend of the program and likes coming on the show Tuesday night. So we're going to use him as a research resource as well. He's the one that let us know that John Saunders was a real possibility to Ole Miss and that John Saunders would be a name to watch. John Saunders became one of the most underrated transfer portal pieces that Ole Miss got in 3 years. Nobody talks about it. Not even me, really. But nobody talks about him. But John Saunders, by the end, became an invaluable piece of the Pete Golding defense. He became legitimately good. This was a guy that at Miami of Ohio, I think it was Miami of Ohio, played cornerback. And he got recruited to Ole Miss off of a game against Kentucky to where he was asked to go one-on-one against Barry and Brown. And Barry and Brown, we all know, is a really good wide receiver. John Saunders made those plays. But Mike Huseman is the person that alerted me to what it was going on. So we're going to have fun this month. This is going to be a really fun month for Ole Miss, I think. And signing day is tomorrow. That's absolutely nuts that signing day is tomorrow. So we will do signing day tomorrow. And Monday is the transfer portal. Ole Miss is likely going to end up in a bowl game shortly after that. Sometime that goes as well. And then January, obviously, the transfer portal will be continuing. It'll be about a 2-month period until classes start somewhere around January 21st. I just know it's somewhere around my sister's birthday. So we'll see exactly how it goes. But this is kind of a transfer portal primer before the window opens. Got some gossip about the Micah Hudson. Like I said, I think it was Billy Embody or Zach. I forget his last name. Zach came up with it, maybe. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But I'm pretty excited about where this transfer portal window could lead. And with high school recruiting doing so well, because it literally is doing well, where that is at the moment as well. It's pretty good. And by the way, Ole Miss just finished his 4th win in 5 years against Mississippi State. That is something that hasn't been done since Billy Brewer. And before then, Johnny Vaught. And that needs to be applauded for Lane Kiffin being able to pull that off. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the #1 Ole Miss podcast. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Host Chris Gordy holds no punches, covering the best conference in college football. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Exciting news as well. You can become a Locked On Ole Miss insider, the best and easiest way to stay updated on all things Ole Miss sports. It is our texting program that sends you notifications on anything relevant with all the hassle of message boards filled with trolls. Enjoy a 14-day free trial and experience the future of college sports coverage. We're adding new perks as we grow, so do not miss out. The link is down in the description. And for those of you watching on YouTube, we'll send you to Locked On College Sports right now. Hotty toddy, everyone.